Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. It's pretty windy today, so I'm hoping that the wind noise isn't too terrible. This mic that I'm using right now does pretty good usually on it, so we're going to keep our fingers crossed and hope that you can understand what I'm saying. I want to continue the conversation that we've been having the last few days of some things that you actually need to be doing. We've been talking for months now about all the craziness that's going on, and I still talk about it here and there, but it's time to transition from just complaining and talking about that and actually doing some things to get yourself ready. Spring will be coming up soon. It's a good time to get out and do new things, learn new things, get yourself more prepared. Build your homestead to be a more sustainable, a more self-sufficient little piece of your heaven right there, so that you have a better chance to survive because, well, you need and are dependent less on the system around you. You're able to have your own needs within your own hands. That your own sweat and blood and tears is what, creates your happiness, and your needs are met by that way. And so that's something that I'm really pushing for on here, is to try to help you transition to that as much as possible. Speaking of spring coming up and new life forming, our dog had puppies last night. We knew she was going to have them. I thought it was probably going to be next week, so I was off a few days, but sure enough, she started having them yesterday afternoon, and by evening was done. And I'll be showing a little clip of her with the puppies. So they're less than a day old. They are half Pyrenees, quarter Akbash, and quarter Anatolian. And they come from a really good stock on both sides. Parents, grandparents, going back quite a bit, have all been around, chickens, goats, sheep, cattle, all kinds of stuff. But they're pretty cute. Everyone's pretty excited about that. So I just wanted to share that with you, of what life can be like, the good side of life on a homestead, seeing all the new birth and the new growth, and hopefully soon we'll start seeing a few green things pop up around here. I'm a little early on that, but maybe we'll start seeing it. One of the reasons, and I've been talking about as I share with you some ideas and tips on getting more prepared and more self-sufficient, I keep mentioning reasons why. And here's another reason. We've talked about food and all that kind of stuff in the last couple of days. But look at the economy, and not just the economy of the increases of prices and the falling dollar, but look at the job markets. There's 10 million or so still unemployed. There's hundreds of thousands every week still applying for unemployment. They're talking about increasing the minimum wage, which I know for those people that are making minimum wage, that sounds great. Wow, I'm going to be making $10 or even $15 an hour. Except probably two things are going to happen. You're not going to have a job because it'll just be automated, or everything's going to have to go up. I mean, money doesn't just grow on trees. And I know there's a lot of people on this planet that seem to have difficulty with that concept. They think you just give it away and people are rich, print some more, pay people more, a higher wage. I mean, it's just money, right? I mean, they do just print it. But there's, negative repercussions to all this. So that's happening. Now we're going to give not just amnesty, but citizenship to 11 million illegals. That's right. You've all been hearing about it. Odds are it's probably going to happen. In fact, they're taking it to the point that there are some wanting to do this retroactively to people that's already been deported. So if you've been deported over a certain period of time, then they're going to open the doors open for you again. You can come back and still get immunity, amnesty, and citizenship, even after you've been deported. I mean, they've basically opened the doors already, and they're flooding in. So we have all this influx of more migrants, illegal migrants. We have the ones that are here now that we're going to give, I guess, citizenship to. And then we've got all these people that still can't find jobs because there's not as many jobs out there because of the vast numbers of businesses that shut down and downsized because of all the health crisis and all the regulations involved in that, and all the automation now. So how does that look good for an economy? I mean, can anyone look at all these things and say, oh, that's a good thing? That's going to help our economy. An economy that's already on the verge of completely collapsing. And most experts, if you listen to them, they'll say they're surprised it hasn't collapsed already. They don't really know why it's just still, chugging along. Mostly it's just that people believe that it's okay, believe that the dollar is good, believe that the economy is solid. But at some point, that's going to stop. And when that happens, along with all the other things going on, it's going to make things very difficult for everyone. And that's another reason why we should be self-sufficient as much as we can. Not just prepping. Prepping's good. You should be doing prepping. I push it hard and serious, and it's something that can keep you alive. But prepping traditionally is just a temporary fix. Whereas homesteading, self-sufficient lifestyle, that's a long-term thing. And so that's one of the, a big thing that I'm trying to push on here. So today, I'm getting long-winded, and I know some of you absolutely hate it when it takes me so long to get to the point. We're going to talk about some skills. These are not all the skills that you need. These are some of the skills that you need. These aren't even maybe the most important. I don't know. These are ones that I think are important. If you have ones to add to it, please do so in the comments, because there's many more than just these few that I've listed. But these are some important things, and you can learn all of this stuff on here. You can learn on your own. It's good if you learn under someone that's more of an expert. If you're able to take classes, sometimes you can find classes on some of these things. That's fine too. But you can learn this stuff on your own through reading it, getting a book. Those things still exist, and just practicing it, trial and error. Number one is be a Mr. Fix-It. Learn how to fix things. Learn how to repair things. And this is a very broad and general term. And I'm talking about everything from a little electronics and appliances, tools, to putting up a fence, or just building things around the house, building a chicken coop, whatever it is. Learn how to fix things, how to build things from spare parts. My grandfather always said of himself, he said, I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none. And there's nothing wrong with being a master of a certain trade, but out here on a homestead, you need to have a good general knowledge of just about everything. Electronics, electrical engineering, plumbing, carpentry, fixing gadgets, farm equipment, implements, fixing them, small engine repair. It comes in handy, and you can do this on your own. You can learn this skill on your own. I have a box. I thought about getting it out for this video, but I just didn't. But I have a whole box full of books that I have picked up over the years at yard sales and thrift stores and stuff. And these are those, you've probably seen them. They were popular back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And these big, thick books, like a coffee table book, mostly produced by like Reader's Digest, on home repair and how to wire a house and carpentry and cabinetry. And I've also got a bunch of old magazines on those topics that I have picked up over the years. I'm pretty good at doing this kind of stuff on my own, but sometimes I'm doing something, I hit a spot that I'm not exactly sure what I should do. I'm not quite sure how to wire that, or I'm not quite sure, what angle I should cut that for the best, structure, strength for the structure, or whatever it is. And I can go to those books and magazines, and most times I can find the answer that I need in them. And I can pick those up for pennies, nickel, dime, quarter, dollar. I probably don't have $20 in the whole box. And so I would encourage you, when you see those kinds of things, pick them up, because people are usually just trying to get rid of them because they're cluttering up their house. And having a box of books like that can be very helpful on a homestead. Gardening, talk about that, animal husbandry, and food processing. I've lumped those all together. We talk about that a lot, so I'm not going to linger the point, especially the gardening thing. Animal husbandry, I'm talking about taking care of animals. You need to be a home vet. You need to be able to take care of your animal, give them the medicines they need, stitch up a wound, take care of them as much as possible. I'm not saying don't use vets. You can use a vet. I've used them when I need them, but I try to do as much as I can at home on my own, because you're capable of doing that. And having a good supply of a good stock of veterinary supplies is also very good to do. And you can go to most farm stores and get just about anything when it comes to veterinary supplies for animals. Learn how to take care of your animals if you're going to have them. And then, of course, food processing. This is everything from canning foods to putting up the deer that you took down in the fall, or processing, the calf or the lamb that you raised to eat. You need to learn how to process your food. You need to learn how to preserve it. This is stuff, again, you can learn out of a book, and then you just practice trial and error. Another thing is, kind of like with the animals, you need to know how to take care of people. You need to have some first aid skills. I think for the average homestead, having an EMT level of knowledge doesn't mean that you have to go out and get an EMT training or EMT license. But if you have about that level of knowledge, you're going to do pretty good. Again, you can pick up books at thrift stores and at yard sales and in old bookstores. I see them all the time where, someone's gone to EMT school, had to buy the book, and then done with this training, and they, donate the book. I understand it's not the same thing as getting the training. For those of you that are EMTs, and I was once one, I understand. It's not the same. I'm not saying you can go out and start, charging for your services now because you read the EMT book, but it does help you around the homestead, the farm, taking care of the injuries. Now, of course, you need to go to the hospital, doctor or whatever, but a lot of things you can take care of on the homestead. And someday you may not be able to get to a hospital or a doctor. So you need to have those skills. And of course, along with the skills, you need to have some decent first aid supplies. Along with first aid, you need to be a pretty decent herbalist. And a lot of you are into it, and some of you, not as much. But I'm telling you, the natural world around you offers quite a bit when it comes to healing and food. So along with being an herbalist, also be good at foraging. Learn the world around you, the natural world around you. Learn what the plants are. Learn what they can do. Learn which ones that you can eat. Learn how to make things out of them. And there are certain plants that they can be used to make things. So learn that and develop that skill. Again, books works great for that. Next one is bushcraft, primitive, and survival skills. Again, some of you are really into that, and some of you don't really know much of what I'm talking about. Let me put it to you this way. If you don't know anything about this subject, try to find you an old Boy Scout manual, something that was produced no later than the 1990s. So from the 1990s and further back, you're going to get some decent information. And we're talking things on how to sharpen a knife, how to build a fire, how to build a fire with one match, how to build a fire without any matches, how to build a fire primitively, not even with the new modern striker rod, but with a flint and steel or bow and drill. Can you do that? Do you know how to build a shelter from natural materials around you? Do you know how to chop down a tree? Do you know how to chop it into firewood? Do you know how to make an animal snare? Do you know how to tie knots? Multiple different types of knots for different purposes. And how about lashing? Lashing is where you take sticks and rope and you put them together to make something. These are some really basic bushcraft, primitive, survival kind of skills. How to cook, under these conditions, how to purify water under these conditions. These are some skills you should have, and these are fun to learn. You can go out with your family. The weather will be warming up for many of you over the next few weeks, and it's a good time to take them camping and practice some of these skills. If you're just going out in your backyard, you can practice these types of skills and get good at it decently, and they're very helpful for this kind of lifestyle. I'm building fires all the time around here, and it's good to know. I'm using, I often build temporary structures for things out of, sticks and things that I find around here. So it's actually a very helpful to have some of these skills. This one, it cracks me up still that I have to mention this, but it's true. Learn to cook from scratch. It's amazing how many people that don't know how to cook from scratch. They only know how to cook from a pre-boxed or pre-packaged meal. And I'm not just talking about learning to cook from scratch, but learning to cook old ways. Have you compared an old, say something at least 60 to 70 years old cookbook or older to a modern cookbook? Look at the ingredients lists. You can even take something that's the same kind of food and compare them. And an old recipe may have 4 or 5 ingredients, and the new recipes will have 15 or 20 ingredients. And half of those ingredients come from all over the world. You have to go to a specialty store to get them. You're not going to be able to have access to those, if SHTF happens or if the economy starts tanking. You're not going to be able to afford them. So learn to cook from scratch, but learn to cook old-fashioned ways. Learn how to make bread from old-fashioned ways. Learn how to make soups and different things. And this goes along with the preservation, but you need to know how to cook the food if you're going to grow it and raise it. To me, that's just common sense, but you'd be surprised how many people don't know how. The last couple are, I think, also pretty common sense and why we need to know how to do them. Sewing. You need to learn how to sew. You need to learn how to mend clothing. You need to know how to alter clothing. There could easily come a day where purchasing clothing will become more and more difficult. Or just not able to get it all, and so you may be stuck with the clothes that you have, and you need to know how to take care of them and make them last much longer. I saw something, I believe it was today or yesterday in the news, that they're already doing it in some stores, but they're proposing a nationwide, I guess, law in Israel. It's the first country I've seen do this, that basically you will have to prove that you've had the shot in the arm to do any type of purchasing. Now, this has been talked about ever since this health crisis started, but this is the first time I've seen a serious proposal that a nation is going to do that. They say they're going to do it, that there'll be some type of health passport, and you will have to show that to prove that you got it, to go to a grocery store, department store, anywhere. That's another thing to consider, why you need to do things simpler, more natural, and on your own. The very last one, auto mechanics. This kind of does go along with the Mr. Fix-It, but I kind of decided to put it on its own because it's auto mechanics, and they're frustrating. Vehicles are frustrating. But you need to learn how to take care of your own. Back when I was a kid growing up, pretty much every guy knew how to change the oil, flush a radiator, flush a transmission, change a tire, put a battery in, put a belt on, put a radiator hose on, change the brakes. I mean, these were just, those were things that you didn't really even think about going to a mechanic for. Nowadays, people practically have to have help filling gasoline, putting it into their tank because they don't know how. So you need to learn. I understand modern vehicles are different. We won't get into that in this video, but you need to learn how to take care of your vehicle. You need to learn how to do maintenance on the vehicle. And as much as you can afford this, I would suggest having a little stockpile, at least, of some things to take care of it. Have an extra belt around, having maybe some extra spark plug wires, things that are just the normal wear and tear on your vehicle. It wouldn't hurt to have extra sitting around if you can afford that. And certainly the tools the tools and the knowledge of how to fix your vehicle. It's just simple. I mean, and especially the older vehicles, you should just know how to do it. I mean, you just should. I don't know how else to say it, and I don't want to sound too harsh by saying, well, if you're a man, but I'm not going to say that. All I'm going to say is learn how to take care of your vehicles. These are some skills that will get you a long way down the road. They won't take care of everything, but they'll certainly get you down the road on the path to self-sufficient homesteading and being more prepared as a self-sufficient homesteader. All right, folks, thank you all for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.